What's up, guys? Leland here with Bottom Table Tyrants, and I wanted to show you how I like to make my bad guys. So, as a challenge to myself, I wanted to use 2 Planeswalkers from Magic the Gathering. Let's get into it. First, we're going to start off with the Vampire Sauron Markov. So, starting off with his stats, I'm converting those to Dungeons & Dragons 5e. So I took my monster manual here, as you can see, and I just extrapolated on the vampire stuff. So he's going to be a big bad vampire because he's a planeswalker vampire. This isn't just your normal homegrown vampire. So everything got +1, I think, except for charisma. So 5 for strength, 5 for dexterity. This is a +5 is what I'm saying here. +5 for con, intelligence +4, wisdom +3, and then charisma, I'm pretty sure I kept the same at 4. And the reason behind that is I want to have kind of a weakness stat, and I know that there's not a lot that attacks charisma, but I feel like he's just this stoic vampire that really doesn't understand how the living humans work anymore. He's kind of lost touch with them, and they kind of allude to this in one of the reasons why he left Zendikar hanging, and then Zendikar fought back and actually brought the Eldrazi into his lands. So he has been known to not function well with others because of, I would imagine, because of his undeadness, his stoic vampiricism that makes him just not really understand emotion and different human emotions that happen to the living. So that's why I put that way. And again, that's all these things I'm trying to do to make him feel like the character that I envision for him. So the other part of this is I'm going to use a Planeswalker card, and Planeswalkers are special in Magic the Gathering in that they put tokens on the cards, and as they put tokens on the cards, it kind of counts as their life in a way. I don't do it I don't use it as HP for this reason, but it does. I guess I'm challenging myself in that I'm going to add tokens, and as he builds them up, as he fights PCs or fights as an NPC against other bad guys, he's going to build up these tokens and then be able to use them to do special moves every once in a while. Think of it as a way for a power to regenerate. So let's talk HP for him. I gave him 200. I want to say a regular vampire was like 140 or 150 if I remember when I was reading the vampire section. So I kind of gave him just 50 points more. Don't worry. I guess the reason behind that is he's only going to get to around 200 and then he's going to like peace out. He's going to planes jump away. He's going to get out of there. This isn't a character that you just kill off really willy-nilly. And same for both of them that I'm going to talk about today. I don't want these guys to die. I want them to jump out of the current plane they're in whenever they reach a certain HP. So that 200 HP isn't going to kill him, but it's going to be like kind of a crossing point where he says, okay, I'm losing this fight. I'm out of here. So that's how we do that. I guess his HP would probably be more around 400 for a Planeswalker that's not quite an Elder Dragon, which we'll talk about here in a little while. So he's not super healthy, I guess you'd say. He doesn't have crazy health like a red dragon would at around 500, but he does have a lot of health. In reality, if for some reason you were going to be able to pin him down, keep him from jumping planes, and try to kill him, that's probably what I would say his actual HP would be. So now let's talk about how I handle the tokens. So for his regular attack, which will gain him +2 tokens, he has a sword attack that hits for 1d10. Don't forget plus strength, so it's going to be +5. So 1d10 +5 times 2 attacks with a multi-attack, and that will give him 2 tokens. He also can re-roll missed attacks, but then that causes him to take 1d10 damage. That's how I'm going to do his basic attack, which gives him +2 tokens. Then, once he gets over 3, he can spend 3 of them to summon a multi-attack ×2 1d8 vampire spawn with 10 HP and lifelink. And that lifelink is to Sauron. So if they attack and do damage, that life will go to Sauron because they, like, I would say drain it. They bite them, they suck it up. They just, pull in HP for Sauron. That's going to be -3 tokens. Now, The big attack that he gets is -6 tokens. Again, if they use all 6 of their tokens to do this, that doesn't like kill the character as if it was on the battlefield on a Magic the Gathering game. I would just say you're at 0 tokens now and you're gonna have to build back up. But this deals 1d20 damage to one target. Sorin gains the lost HP. So I probably wouldn't add any modifiers to this. If I did, it would probably be like intelligence instead of strength, because this is probably more of a spell type of thing that I would have him do. Maybe just like pulling all of the life from one person into him, just draining them using some sort of like blood drain spell or something like that. So that's his thing that he will do for 6 tokens. Now, legendary actions. This is something that I attach to almost every mini boss or big boss that I do. When I have my screen up for when I'm a dungeon master, I will roll for initiative for Sorin. I would put his initiative, I usually stack them across the top of all the characters where they're at in the initiative order. Sorin would have one card that sets where he is in the initiative order, and then he'd have another card at the end that's more of like a legendary move that happens at the end of every turn. It's pretty much the last thing that happens is any legendary activations. So that legendary activation does this: deal 1d6 damage to any PCs within 3 squares. That's about 15 feet. Gain 1 token and any lost HP. So he'll get +1 for doing that every single turn if there's somebody within range, plus any of the HP that he's able to drain away from them, rolling that 1d6. So if there's a bunch of guys, he might get a decent amount back, but otherwise it should just be piddly, but also give him that +1. As you can see here in the squares, I put those as 20. Every square is worth 20 HP. If they hit him for, say, 18, I usually just cross off the square. I don't want to, nitpick between, oh, that was 2 HP to not quite get there. I don't like it whenever an enemy is almost dead and they do this dramatic move, maybe like a crit move or something like that, and he only has like 2 life left. Just have him finish him off and let that heroic, amazing strike finish him off instead of wait and then have the next guy plink him for like a punch for 4 to finish him off. That's anticlimactic, and don't let him do that. Also, don't be afraid to extend his life or reduce his life depending on how the players are enjoying the combat. If they're loving it, or if they're stressed but having a good time, then because they're behind, they feel like they're getting beat by him, something like that. Don't be afraid to move his life around. If you need to add more because they're whipping on him, they're getting lots of crits, stuff like that, give him a little bump, give him a little more, make that combat go the amount that you want to. I would say most mini bosses should go around 5 turns. Most big bosses, I would say 5 to 8 turns, depending on, again, this is level dependent, but at the same time, if they're fighting something that they should be fighting, that's around the time frame that it would need to go. Now, if I have a bunch of players, again, I would shorten that because you got a lot of players going around the horn, and you may want to shorten that as well. So then you shorten it down to like 3 turns and 5 turns for a big boss, 3 turns for a mini boss, something like that. Again, you got to make that call. This is your job as the living computer that runs this game, is to sit there and decide, okay, when are my players starting to fall out of this combat? When is this combat losing its steam? When is it getting boring again? You don't want to get to that point and then cut it. You want to cut it right before it gets to that point. So this is where you're the human who makes those decisions. Otherwise, they could do this with an app. And I promise you don't want this game to be run by an app. So you're the DM. You can do it. I believe in you. All right, let's talk about our other Planeswalker that I brought in today, and this one is the big bad Elder Dragon Nikobolas. Pretty much the main bad guy, I believe, in Magic the Gathering. He is the mastermind behind every plot. If something's going bad somewhere in the plains, he's probably behind it. So, because of that, I made his stat line as such. So I guess I took from 3 things. He is a blue, black, and red mana character. So I took from the blue, black, and red dragons in Dungeons and Dragons from my monster manual here, and I used those to pull his stats. So pretty much I took the best stat that any of those 3 had. So that's my thought process. If you're wondering like where are you getting these stats at? He's a dragon, so we're going to treat him like a dragon. Now again, I get it. He's a planeswalker. And because of that, that's where we get into the life HP situation. But let's talk about his stats first. Strength +10. That's going to hit hard. Dexterity +0 because that's dragons. Think of it as he's this giant thing. He is a giant monster. He can't get his bulk out of the way from even a dagger or something like that very easily. I don't want him dodging bullets pretty much as this giant dragon. So Dexterity 0, I'm okay with that. That's probably his lowest stat, but it's mainly due to his giant draconic bulk. And then Con and Intelligence, I want to talk about these together because I made a command decision here to flip-flop those stats. And the reason is because his Constitution I want lower at a +4 instead of a +9 that I think the Red Dragon had the highest Constitution in there. And there's a reason for that. If you look at any of his art, and I'm probably going to be showing his art right about now, Nicol Bolas isn't the most thick dragon, if you will. He is pretty slim. He's actually kind of creepy looking in how he has these weird human legs dangling down. He doesn't have like kind of a quadruped stance like most dragons do. He almost kind of dangles his weird thin body down from his wings, which is creepy to me. When I was pulling this art, I was like, man, they don't show him from the waist down a whole lot of times, and I think it's because he's just shaped oddly down low. And the other thing is, I don't know if you've ever seen his original card, but I'll post it up here. He has improved from in how he's looked over the years, because when he was an Elder Dragon early on, and he may not have been a beautiful boy back then. What I did is I switched Intelligence and Constitution. So the 9 of the Constitution went to his Intelligence because he is the mastermind. He is the plotter, the schemer. He is the evil behind all the bad stuff that happens in the planes. And so because of that +9 fit that Intelligence. So then I brought the +4 that's usually part of the Intelligence for these dragons over as their Constitution. And that's because of his thin frame. Now, Wisdom +2. This was Wisdom across the board was +2 for these dragons. It's pretty much, it's their weakness. And the way I see this is that fits. It makes sense. If you asked his brother Ugin, who's also an Elder Dragon, I would say he would agree with us that, Nicol Bolas is not as wise as many of the other dragons. Otherwise, he would be on the right side of history in this. So I think that fits. It's going to be his weakness. These PCs need to attack. If they know anything about dragon stats, maybe they'll know that dragons have low wisdom, and they'll hit that. If you have, spells that hit it, maybe some warlock spells, stuff like that target wisdom, that would be the way to take this guy down in most instances. And then finally, his charisma +6. This is an evil dude who likes to talk to, he likes to corrupt the minds of his minions. He likes to go plane to plane and gather followers. So I feel like that +6 charisma is good. Like we talked about with Sauron, he was a +4. I think the 6 is good. That's about where I'd want it. It's a high stat. And because he is a deceiver, and so that's going to work for him in that he is able to trick the minds of mortals. All right, now I didn't want to treat him like a planeswalker, but I did want to make him, well, I wanted to make him feel deadly, but not just ridiculous. Because as a card, a lot of the time, Nicol Bolas will just annihilate creatures, just kill that, kill that, kill that. And that's part of the thing that he does, is just eliminate something that's an artifact, eliminate something that's a creature, just every turn, just boop, boop, boop. Eliminate a player's hand is very common. So I wanted to have that feel, but not have it be just an auto-dead PC. So let's talk about his stats. HP 500. Again, like we talked about, I would say his HP is probably more around between 700 and 1,000. This guy is the main big bad in Magic the Gathering. So he's going to have a super high life stat. Problem is, when he gets to around 500, he realizes he's losing this fight. And he's lost it before. Whenever he's fighting with his brother or any of the other planeswalkers that gang up on him, he knows when to cut bait and run. So he's going to do that when he gets that HP 500 point. That's when he's going to jump away. That's when he's going to escape. Now, unless the player characters do something amazing and say, you know what, we're going to get a bunch of Zendikar Hedron stones and surround them and trap them in, and then we're going to kill them. Unless they're able to think of that or do something like that, I doubt there's going to be a way for them to stop him getting away. They're going to have to really come up with something good to have him not get away. So maybe your characters are your players are able to devise something like that, but I would spring Nicol Bolas on them so that they're not prepared for that. And at least he's able to get away definitely the first time. If they go after him, maybe the second time they're able to come up with some sort of trap like that. Okay, he has a multi-attack ×2. This is a claw attack, and it's 2d6 plus his strength. That's 10. So automatically 10 on the that's a decent good hit, and then you're gonna add the 2d6 on there. I wanted to bump that one up, but I was like, no. Plus 10 strength, that's pretty good already. So let's just stick with 2d6 plus 10. So that's his basic normal attack. Then he's going to store power. Instead of making the multi-attack, gain power for a turn to change the claw attack damage to 1d20 next turn. So this is him just pulling in energy, pulling in mana, pulling in black and red and blue mana, and using it to do just a mega hit next turn. So he pretty much skips a turn, changes that 2d6 into a 1d20. Next, I like to add a reaction attack. So this guy is going to have a tail attack. For anyone within 25 feet, that's going to be 5 squares, is going to get hit by a reaction attack. And it's not everyone. It's just going to be one character. Now, I would distribute that damage out. I wouldn't just pick on one player character, or really I probably wouldn't go against the weakest player character. Most of the time I'm going to swing at the highest life character and try and bring everyone down together. Next, we have a mind control bonus action, and this does, it succeeds a DC 15 willpower to take control of one NPC. And the key word there is NPC. This isn't taking control of the player characters. I want them to keep their ability to keep fighting and stuff like that. I don't even like stunning or, taking away moves from my characters or turns from my characters. So this would be him taking over the mind of a friend that they've brought or a pet that they've brought or something like that and turning them on the character. I feel like that is very Nicol Bolas. So that's how I would handle this. And this is me. This is what I brought in instead of him just killing a PC just straight off, which is what his cards do a lot of times. This is the way I'm going to compensate for that, is that he's going to take control of one of their friends. The next bonus action he has is Control Dead. Now, this is a player that's died in the combat. If they've gone down, failed all their rolls, and they're dead, guess what? He's bringing them back, fighting for him. So I like that. That to me is Nicol Bolas again, in that he is going to come back, use his own, use the PCs against each other. I would say they need to take a fear check or some sort of check to even be able to strike back at one of their old compatriots who just stood back up, eyes glowing with a deathly black, black mana smoke coming out of them, something like that. So this is a way to freak out your player characters. Maybe if that player died, you let them play as evil version, evil Link version of themselves. So let them have fun with this. This is a way that they can get back in the combat, something like that. Now, again, they need to work with the game master. I don't want them going bonkers and slaughtering the whole rest of the team, something like that. If they were like the fighter or so, a dangerous character, a paladin, something like that, that can really wreck some people. Maybe you don't let them go ham on them, but say, hey, work with them, pull them in the other room and be like, here's what I want you to do. I want you to help me out, support me, stuff like that. Like kind of give them a game plan and let them know that we don't want them to just wreck their, the player characters. And don't be afraid to call a timeout, pull them aside if they start doing that. Your players are going to work with you. These guys they want to have fun and they want to be a part of the story. So I'm just throwing out ideas here, but that's how I would handle that situation, is maybe let the player who just died now be the evil version of themselves. That sounds fun. Final thing is going to be that legendary action. Again, the legendary action happens at the end of the turn, and each PC within 30 squares must choose one that wasn't chosen the last turn. So at the end of every turn, they have to choose one of these, and it can't be the same thing twice. They have their damage in the next turn, they have their movement in the next turn, or they have their current HP. So that's probably the one that they will not want to do unless maybe they get real low and they're at like 5 instead of 50. And they're like, what's half at this point? If I take a hit, I'm gone. So it's just a weird way to cripple them. Again, this might be too much. I'm not sure yet, but I want you guys to play test it for me. This is just something I came up with and trying to build a character and challenge myself. I'm going to post this down in the description as a PDF, so you guys want to take this and use it, try it out, let me know what happens. I just wanted to show you guys how I develop my characters. I love to use reaction moves. I love to use the legendary action. And again, I just like to make the characters feel like what they should feel like. So I'm trying to make these Magic the Gathering cards feel like NPCs in Dungeons and Dragons. So let me know how I did. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you would tweak it. Guys, please post in the comments what you think. If you love it, if you don't, hit that like button. Please, guys, subscribe if you like this channel. The Tyrants love you. Leland out.